Hey guys, thank you for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Steph and I make YouTube videos. I have a series on my channel called My Manic Life Vlogs where I talk about living with bipolar disorder type 1, psychotic features, and PTSD, anxiety. Today, specifically, I want to focus on divorce. If you have been affected by divorce, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of fighting, significant amount of fighting. The norm was the parents screaming and fighting and the kids crawling all over my dad, begging him not to leave because he would peel out of the driveway, leave, and then come back later. That was severely traumatic. So that was when my parents were in the marriage. One day we woke up, my mom had left me a letter, went out to the living room, and my father told me, I guess it would have been easier if she died. And I think he said that because his mom died, and I don't know, he's never dealt with that. I immediately stopped eating, got an eating disorder. I think I talk about this in another video. And it gave me, my mom leaving, I was so devastated, it gave me an excuse to act out, start smoking cigarettes, started smoking weed. I had lost control of my world. My parents were splitting up, so I was in junior high at the time. When my parents had got divorced, me and my siblings also thought that that was the best thing ever because we saw how miserable they were. It's very, very painful for a child to watch a marriage fall apart if they're old enough to understand, like I was 14. And so living in a home my entire life, dealing with screaming and yelling amongst parents, I'm kind of at the point where I'm old enough to be like, oh man, maybe something will change. It affects everyone. And I think that a lot of parents fail to realize how much it affects their children. For example, after my mother left, within a year, my dad was remarried. He was marrying a woman with three kids. And so it was like a big joke. It was the Brady Bunch. We all moved into the same house together. It was like separate families. It was horrible. On TV, you'll see typically in those romance Hallmark movies where the father goes to the kid and is like, well, how do you feel about this person? I think I'm gonna ask them to marry me. It doesn't exactly happen like that, I think. I think I was a bit surprised when my dad got engaged to his second wife. You know, this woman comes into my life, and my stepmother, and I know that's a very difficult role, but she was very angry at my biological mother, and she had a lot of things to say about her to me. But she wanted to fill that role of mom. So every card that she would give me for my birthday, Christmas, whatever, would say love, her name, and then it would say in parentheses, mom. Her and my dad stayed married about a year. And when she left, I never heard from her again, ever. And that was very traumatic. And I don't think either of my parents ever really acknowledged how traumatic that was. As someone with bipolar disorder type 1, I have delusions when I go into psychosis. Now that I'm on medication, that doesn't happen. I'm managing my illness with medication. And the whole stepmom thing was so traumatic for me. A lot of times parents aren't really honest. They will talk bad about the other person, and whether they realize it or not, the child is ultimately responsible for their own decisions. But it doesn't help when you have an ex-husband or ex-wife. It doesn't help when there's a step-parent and the divorcee, you know, your dad or mom, talking poorly about this other person. In my particular situation, my dad kicked my mom out. And every time he referred to her leaving, he would always say, when your mom left, when your mom left. It wasn't until I was in college that my mother finally told me, your dad made me leave. He kicked me out. And I just kind of, at that point, was in college very vapid and very concerned with myself. I really was like, well, it's great that you're divorced now, so it doesn't really matter. Because she got remarried and was a lot happier. My dad got remarried to a third wife eventually, who became my stepmother, who I thought I had an extremely close relationship, but that blew up in my face as well. The reason why this video, I wanted to post this video in connection with my mental health vlog, which is mostly about bipolar disorder, is because my relationship with my family has been severely affected by my mental illness. And divorce was a huge factor in the trauma in my life. The remarried, the 3 wives, the second husband, these were very, very traumatic in my life. And my episodes happened after my parents got divorced. But in every single episode, my parents came up. And it's so hard to explain a delusion, but delusions come with psychosis. A delusion is basically you're living in an alternate reality. Everything that you believe is typically not true, crazy, out of this world. You make up things in your heads. For me, I think it was very like, this is traumatic for me, so I'm going to create a happier situation in my mind. It was in my second episode. My dad got married to his 3rd wife, which this really hurt too. I was in college when he got engaged. I don't even think he told me. I don't know. Maybe he did tell me he was going to ask her to marry him. But when he called to invite me to his wedding, it was like a couple weeks or a month away. It was very, very soon to when he called and invited me. And I had finals that week. So it wasn't important to my dad that I was at his wedding at all. And it wasn't important to my stepmom either, obviously. Went off on a tangent again. Went off on a tangent again. In my second psychotic, manic episode that led into psychosis, my dad was married to my current stepmom, his 3rd wife. I have very, very limited memory of my psychosis. I have several blackouts, but I do remember I called my dad. I was outside of 7-Eleven, which I later got arrested for disturbing the peace at, and actually ended up on 3 years probation. I remember I was on a payphone. I think this was the time, and I called my dad and I was crying. And by the way, psychosis is the loneliest, scariest place on the planet. You live in a different reality. You're like on an alternate universe. Everyone hates you and is away from you, against you. It's a horrifying place to be. I don't know what set it off, but I remember calling my dad and just crying my eyes out and being, "Why did you make me bleed? Why did you make me bleed?" And I was referring to the time that he socked me in the face and gave me a fat lip. Well, backhanded me in the face and gave me a fat lip because he has anger issues, and I told him, F you. Another time during this same episode, my second episode that I remember, where I don't remember anything other than in the conversation than me telling my stepmother, you know, he still loves my mom, about my dad. I don't know why I said that. I think it's because as a child of divorce, you're always going to want your parents to stay together. It's so hard to see them break up. If you're a parent and you're getting divorced, you can't do it by yourself. You should get counseling or something. If you've tried every avenue, because your kids will watch you implode. I remember one time when my mom left in the beginning, my brothers and I had gone over to her house because she was renting a room in this house that had a pool. So we all wanted to go swimming. And I remember I went up to her room. I could just hear her crying her eyes out. And I always think of that. So yeah, I don't even know what the point of this video was even more. I'm not sure how much of this video was venting. I just think it's important that if it's something you're considering, you should definitely understand that your kids are going through it 10 times worse than you are. Not only do your kids have to deal with you leaving, they have to deal with the potential of a step family, of new siblings. They have to, the worst part, watch you fall apart. If you have completely given up on your marriage and that's all you and your kids are very young, I think it's a lot easier if your kids are very young. I think if they're teenagers or in grade school already, it's a lifelong impact. So yeah, maybe just acknowledge your kids' feelings. I don't know. Bye. Thank you for watching. I don't know. I hope it gives you some clarity on how horrible it is for divorce, that effect on kids. Alrighty. I will talk to you.